Howdy mates, good afternoon. How are y'all doing today? On this Tenacious Tuesday, here's a part 2 film. I'm still over in the city of Dayton right now, and like I said, this day has been something special. I mean, I think I've learned more about the city of Dayton from today more than I have known throughout most of my life prior to moving away. I think it's one of those deals, like, as I mentioned in my last film, once you've been away from somewhere near where you grew up, and then you come back after a good while, you start to notice and sometimes learn new things that you kind of took for granted from when you were still living in the area. So here we're at the Carillon Historical Park, which is based in the city of Dayton. And just the fact that I really did not even know that this existed is just absolutely baffling to me. But at the same time, it's also very rewarding too. You know, I was actually in debate of going to Yellow Springs today, but I was like, you know what? Let's do something a little different while I'm visiting Ohio for just a couple of days. So, the Carillon Historical Park was dedicated back in 1942 by Edith and Edward Deeds. And Edward Deeds, he actually served as a colonel during World War I. And he and his wife both had a respect for history. And so they wanted to dedicate this place towards the heritage that lies behind Dayton in terms of how the city began, in terms of its early history, and then to dedicate to those who have also made a difference on a global scale. So, like, take for example, I did not know this until today. I'm sure many of you have heard of the company NCR, right? Well, as a matter of fact, when that company first started, it was basically known as the National Cash Register, which was started by one John Patterson. And through John Patterson, he innovated the invention of using, well, I shouldn't say, the cash register already existed, but he knew how to make the cash registers a bit more profitable. And as a result, one of his most well-known innovations from the company was the receipt, which we still use to this day. And you figure, as NCR has progressed within the past century, one of their most recent innovations was the self-checkout used in retail. So that's just one example. Of course, you also had the Wright brothers, as well as Charles Kettering, which even a city is named after him. Charles Kettering was an inventor for some of, like, the electrical system in ignitions, like car ignitions. And he also invented one of the first electronic cash registers while working under John Patterson. And so I've just really come to realize how Dayton was a very industrial city especially back in the day. I mean, in a sense, it still is. But just some of the innovations that came from Dayton still influence the world to this day. That impacts the entire world. So it's quite humbling, I think, to just learn about a particular history of where I practically grew up. I mean, like I said before, I, of course, didn't grow up directly in Dayton, but Greenville's not too far from Dayton. And so it's been a really cool, really neat experience today. So, anyway, I would, of course, recommend checking out. And this is also called Carillon Historical Park because you can't see it directly from here. But I'm sure many of you fellow Daytonians and fellow friends and family who are still in Ohio are well aware of the Carillon structure that stands at the entrance. And no, this is not it. I'll point it out. Give me just a moment, kind of walking by. Yeah, it's like just on the other side. There it is. Maybe. Trying to get clear from the brush. There it is. You know, even just earlier this year, I got to even learn what a carillon entails. It's essentially one large instrument that comprises of at least 23 different bells that can hold 2 different octaves. It's like full circle. So it's just neat that now I can have that appreciation for really what was near where I lived formerly. So very grateful for that. Take care.